The palace shimmered against the violet twilight of Arids, its crystalline spires stretching like spears into the sky. Twin stars bathed the alien city in endless light, one golden, one blue, blending together into perpetual dusk. The palace did not merely sit upon the city, it dominated it, a mountain of glass and stone, guarded by warriors whose bodies glowed faintly with green luminescence. Ryan Blake pressed himself against the cold metallic skin of an outer wall, his pulse hammering. The stealth suit clung to his frame, its microfiber fabric adjusting to the surrounding hues, painting him in shadows. He inhaled sharply, the taste of ionized air stinging the back of his throat. The metamorph relic, steal it and get out alive. Simple job, they said. Ryan muttered under his breath, simple, always simple, until it is. Ryan was no soldier anymore. The Alliance had once stamped that title across his life, shoving him into wars fought on forgotten moons, planets that never mattered. But after desertion, after debts, after the long fall into survival jobs, he'd become something else. Smuggler, mercenary, thief. Tonight, he was the Alliance's disposable pawn, a human scent where no one else dared step. The holographic map on his wrist flickered. A glowing outline of the palace interior hovered above his arm, central spire, royal chamber. The relic was supposed to be there, resting on a pedestal of light. He studied the pathways, narrow halls, guard rotations, sensor grids. Intel was shaky, half of it contradicted itself. Still, he had nothing else to rely on. Ryan flexed his fingers inside the adhesive gloves. They stuck and unstuck with satisfying tack. One last deep breath and he climbed. His body moved with the efficiency of a man who had done this too many times. No wasted movement, no second chances. The architecture was alive under his hands, organic curves merged with machinery, surfaces that pulsed faintly as though the building itself breathed. He reached a slender window. Inside, the corridor was empty. He slipped through. The palace interior stunned him. Bioluminescent panels lined the walls, casting soft emerald light across floors that rippled like liquid metal. Each step sent shivers through the surface, as though he walked on the skin of a pond. Strange symbols curled across the walls, alive, shifting when he wasn't looking. Ryan moved carefully, blending into the shadows, his breath quiet, heart steady. Training had carved discipline into his bones, but beneath it always throbbed the same human weakness, doubt. Why me? Why a human thief? Maybe because humans could survive where others cracked, or maybe because, if things went wrong, losing a human didn't matter to the Alliance. The first guard appeared at a junction of 3 corridors. Tall, slender, emerald skin shimmering faintly, eyes like molten gold, an Aridesian warrior bred to defend treasures with their life. Ryan waited, pressed against the cold wall, every muscle still. The guard turned, packing away. Ryan darted across the junction, vanishing into the next alcove. "Too easy," he whispered. But the palace grew trickier the deeper he went. Crimson lasers crisscrossed a hallway like a deadly web. Ryan pulled a pulse device from his belt, tossed it forward. The device flashed, disrupting the beams for 2 precious seconds. He rolled through, chest brushing the floor just before the grid hummed back to life. He passed another patrol, ducked into a maintenance shaft, and descended. Every sense screamed at him, this was too smooth. The kind of smooth that led to ambushes. Still, he reached the door. The royal chamber, a vast, ornate slab sealed with an Aridesian biometric lock. Ryan unclipped a palm-sized scanner, pressed it against the lock. It hummed, cycling through combinations. A tense minute. Then, a click. The door slid open with a whisper. The chamber stretched wide, ceilings arching high like a cathedral of glass. Walls shimmered with shifting patterns, hypnotic and alive. And in the center stood the pedestal. Not stone, not steel, but light made solid. And upon it, the relic. It was smaller than Ryan had imagined. A palm-sized seed, or maybe an egg. Its surface shimmered with impossible colors, flowing and shifting as though liquid metal danced beneath a thin shell. When Ryan approached, the relic pulsed, colors swirling faster in response to his presence. He grinned despite himself. "Hello, beautiful, you and I are going to make history." His fingers brushed the surface, and the chamber exploded with light, blinding white searing into his eyes. He staggered back, blinking furiously. Shapes emerged. Dozens of Aridesian guards surrounded him, weapons glowing, energy blades humming. And at their center stood her. Ryan knew her from the briefing, from the grainy, hollow images that hadn't come close to reality. Ara, the Queen of Arids, tall, regal, her form draped in armor-black leather with metallic accents catching every flicker of light. Her silver-white hair cascaded like liquid light over her shoulders, but it was her eyes, violet sharp as blades, that froze him. Eyes that looked at him with curiosity, not rage. "Well," Ara said, her voice smooth, melodic, dangerous. "What have we here? A human thief in my palace." Ryan straightened, forcing confidence into his voice, though his heart thundered. "I prefer the term cultural exchange facilitator, Your Highness." Amusement flickered across her lips. "Fascinating. Most species tremble in fear, but humans—" She stepped closer, eyes locked on his. "Humans always find a way to make trouble." Guards closed in, seizing his arms. Ryan resisted the instinct to fight. No chance of winning. Not here, not yet. Ara tilted her head. "Take him to the special chamber. I believe I will conduct this interrogation personally." Ryan should have been terrified, but instead, when her violet eyes lingered on him, sharp, hungry with intrigue, he felt something else. A strange current ran through him, anticipation, fear tangled with fascination. This was no ordinary capture. This was the beginning of something far more dangerous. And deep down, Ryan already knew. The mission briefing hadn't told him the whole truth. The relic wasn't just treasure. Ara wasn't just a queen. And he wasn't just a thief. The chamber that swallowed Ryan was unlike any prison cell he had ever seen. He'd expected stone walls, chains, darkness. Instead, the room blended ancient elegance with living technology. Smooth gray stone stretched across the walls, but veins of glowing blue light pulsed within it like circuitry beneath skin. The air carried a faint electric tang, cold against his lungs. Energy cuffs bound his wrists against the wall. They glowed softly, humming, impossible to break. Ryan tested them anyway, muscles straining, veins standing out on his arms. The bonds didn't budge. He cursed under his breath. The door opened with a whisper. Ara entered. No guards, no escort, just her. She had traded her ceremonial armor for something simpler, yet somehow more dangerous. A black combat suit hugged her tall frame, segmented with metallic plates that shimmered in the dim light. Her silver-white hair was tied back now, revealing sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw that marked her as more than just a figurehead. She moved like someone used to battle. Her violet eyes locked on him, unblinking. "Don't waste your strength. Those restraints could hold a warbeast 3 times your size." Ryan leaned back against the wall, refusing to flinch. "Worth a try." "You are human." The way she said it carried a weight, as if the word itself was a puzzle she had yet to solve. She circled him slowly, her steps measured, eyes studying every detail of his body and face. "I have read much of your kind, warriors, smugglers, explorers, and thieves, apparently." Ryan gave a lopsided grin. "I prefer to think of myself as adaptable." That earned him a faint smile, unexpected, sharp as a blade. She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could smell her, something cool and alien, like metal mixed with flowers that didn't exist on Earth. "Adaptable, yes." Her eyes flickered downward, then back to his. "Humans are unique, fragile in appearance, yet you spread across the stars like fire." Ryan lifted an eyebrow. Compliment or insult? Ara tilted her head. "Observation." She let her gaze linger on him for a moment longer, then added softly, "Though I find myself curious." Ryan's instincts sharpened. This wasn't how interrogations went, not in any species he'd ever dealt with. There should have been threats, demands, torture. Instead, Ara's tone was measured, her eyes fascinated. He forced a smirk. "If you're planning to dissect me, I should warn you. Human anatomy's a mess, too many moving parts." Her laugh was sudden and musical like chimes. It startled him more than a weapon would have. She stepped closer, so close he could feel the coolness radiating off her skin. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "Not dissection, discovery." The words made Ryan's pulse quicken. He hated that she could see it, feel the way his chest rose and fell faster against the restraints. She touched his arm, fingers cool against his skin, tracing the hard line of muscle there. Her curiosity wasn't feigned. It was sharp, hungry, almost scientific. "Your people," she murmured. "So quick to passion, so quick to fear. Which drives you more, I wonder?" Ryan swallowed hard, forcing steadiness into his voice. "Depends on the day." She studied him for a long moment, then stepped back. The sudden loss of her nearness left him unsettled. Ara waved a hand, and a holographic display flared to life between them. It showed the metamorph relic pulsing, swirling with iridescent light, tendrils of energy spiraling outward. Ryan's stomach tightened. This wasn't just an artifact. Ara's voice sharpened, losing its playfulness. You came for the relic. Do you even know what it is? Ryan frowned. They said it was a cultural treasure, symbolic, valuable, sure, but nothing more than that. Ara's laugh was short, bitter. Lies or ignorance, perhaps both. The hologram shifted, showing the relic shattering into 3 glowing fragments. The relic is a piece, a fragment of something greater, the metamorph engine, an ancient creation older than my people, older than yours. It was designed to rebuild broken worlds, to heal, to renew. Her eyes darkened. But in the wrong hands, it can be twisted, reprogrammed, weaponized. It could turn air into poison, oceans into acid, life into death. Ryan's throat went dry. And you think that's why the Alliance wants it? I know the Vorax Imperium wants it. Her voice was sharp, laced with hatred. They've hunted it for centuries. If they unite the fragments, no force in the galaxy could resist them. Ryan's mind reeled. The Alliance briefing hadn't said anything like this. If Ara was telling the truth, he had been sent in blind, disposable. Ara studied him carefully, her violet gaze piercing. Tell me, human, did your superiors lie to you, or do they not know what they asked you to steal? Ryan clenched his jaw. Harrington wasn't the type to send him in blind. But ignorance? That was possible, which meant Ryan was standing in the middle of a storm no one had told him about. He forced a grin, though his insides twisted. I'm usually not the guy they give the big picture to. They point, I run, that's the job. Disposable. Ara's tone was cutting, though her eyes softened almost imperceptibly. Yes, that is what they think of you, a human thief, an expendable tool. Ryan met her gaze, refusing to look away. Maybe, but tools can cut both ways. For the first time, her smile wasn't mocking. It was small, almost real. The door hissed open suddenly. A guard entered, bowing low. Your Highness, reports confirm Vorax communications in the Southern District. They are here. Ara's expression hardened instantly. She dismissed the guard, then turned back to Ryan. Her violet eyes burned with decision. The Vorax are moving. If they find even one fragment, they will never stop. She paused, studying him again as if weighing something heavy. You may be of use. Ryan arched an eyebrow. Thought I was just your prisoner. Perhaps more. Her hand brushed the control panel on the wall. The energy cuffs vanished, freeing his wrists. Ryan rubbed them, surprised, suspicious. Why release me? Because, Ara said, voice cool and dangerous. I need someone reckless enough to bait the Vorax into revealing themselves. Someone the Alliance would not mourn, someone like you. Ryan laughed softly, rubbing his sore wrists. You really know how to flatter a guy. But her gaze didn't waver. Do this, human, help me protect the relic, and perhaps I will let you live. Ryan studied her. The queen who'd captured him was now offering him a choice, ally or pawn. Either way, he was in deeper than he had ever imagined. And then he asked the one question that had been burning since the hologram appeared. You said the relic was one piece of 3. Where are the others? Ara's violet eyes flickered, unreadable. For the first time since meeting her, she hesitated. Then she whispered words that made Ryan's blood run cold. One is here, one is with the Vorax, and the third— She leaned closer, her voice a chill against his ear. The third lies on a human world. The elevator sank through the palace like a drop of rain sliding down glass. Ryan stood beside Ara inside a cylinder of transparent crystal. Around them, layers of arids unfurled. Halls of green light and flowing metal, courtyards hung with floating gardens, balconies where robed scholars traced symbols through the air that became music. The city breathed. Every surface thrummed with a quiet pulse, like the world had a heartbeat. Below the palace, Ara said softly, is the sanctum. Few outsiders have seen it. Fewer leave with memory intact. Ryan glanced at her. That's supposed to make me feel honored or worried. Both, she said, and did not smile. The elevator opened on a cavern so vast it felt like a night sky had been buried under the city. The ceiling arched high, studded with stones that glowed like cold stars. In the center stood a platform of solid light. Around it, concentric rings of liquid metal rotated in different directions, slow and hypnotic, never touching yet always aligned. Ryan's breath caught. That's beautiful. Ara stepped forward, the violet gleam of her eyes reflecting in the turning rings. The ancients called it a cradle, we call it a burden. On the central dais lay a small depression the size of a palm. It was empty. The relic, Ryan said. One fragment of it, Aura answered. The piece in our keeping stays above in the royal chamber under traditions and eyes. But the engine, she gestured at the rings, lives here, dormant, waiting for a key that must never be turned. Footsteps echoed from the far side of the sanctum. 3 Eridesians approached, a towering guard captain with armor like folded leaves, a scholar whose robes shimmered with shifting script, and a craftsman whose hands bore pale scars shaped like tools. Aura introduced them. Captain Mael, High Scribe Vash, Master Artificer Talon. Ryan nodded to each. Mael's face was stone, unreadable. Vash's eyes flicked over Ryan like a scanner, cataloging. Talon, with the scarred hands, tilted his head as if Ryan were a piece of machinery in need of repair. Your plan is reckless, Vash said without greeting. Therefore it may work. Mael's voice carried iron. Or it may hand our enemies a human hostage and an excuse to land an army. Reckless is my brand, Ryan said lightly, then more serious. I won't be taken. Talon studied the rings. He will need a lure. Ryan glanced at Aura. A fake. A replica, Talon corrected. Convincing to the eye, convincing to mid-grade scanners, less convincing if placed beside the true fragment. Ryan looked again at the rotating bands. How close would beside be? Too close for comfort, Aura said. The fields would sing to each other. Ryan's brow knit, sing. Vash raised one thin finger. The ancients designed the engine as a harmonic system. Each fragment emits a pattern. Alone, the pattern is a song with missing notes. Bring 2 fragments close and the missing notes attempt to fill themselves. Bring 3, he spread his hands. The song completes. Matter listens. Listens to what? Ryan asked. Command, Vash said. A kind of prayer the universe cannot ignore. A chill walked down Ryan's spine. He tore his gaze from the rings. Then we don't let the songs meet. Aura nodded to Talon. Can you craft it? Talon's scarred hands opened, revealing a shallow box. Inside lay a half-finished copy of the relic. Its surface captured light the way oil captures rainbows. It pulsed, faint, irregular. I can craft shape and shimmer, Talon said, but the song no, not without help. Ryan leaned in, studying the guts of a small field emitter nestled beneath the shell. The control board looked like nothing built by humans, but the logic of it still spoke to him. Voltage rails, feedback loops, a timing oscillator that drifted. You're trying to fake the pulse with a simple repeat, he said, but the original has micro-variations, glissandos, not clicks. Talon's eyes widened a fraction. You see that? Used to keep dying medkits on a mining barge alive, Ryan said, remembering grease under nails and a bunk that smelled like metal and old coffee. You learn to coax life from stubborn circuits, he pointed. You need jitter, controlled random, a noise source, then a filter to shape it into something that breathes. Noise, Vash repeated like the word itself was dirty. Human methods are always noise. Noise is where life happens, Ryan said, surprising even himself with the heat in his voice. Sterile systems fail, breathing ones bend. Aura's gaze flicked between them. Can you do it? Ryan shrugged. Give me a solder wand, a handful of resistive dust, and something that hates me. Talon's mouth twitched. We have all 3. They worked on a broad bench of black stone that drank light. Talon produced tools that unfolded from silver rods, a tip that heated without flame, a lens that made circuits look like landscapes, a wand that hummed and pressed shapes into soft metal. Ryan asked for things that didn't have Eridesian names, random grain of Arister patch, a coil that could be stretched by hand. Talon guessed and fetched. Vash watched and disapproved. Mael stood like a statue and listened to the room. Aura watched Ryan. He lost time inside the work. The fake relic lay open like a pocket watch, guts exposed. He built a small noise heart, then wrapped it in a filter that answered to a slow oscillator, then bled in an irregular tremor that made the pattern move like something alive. He tuned with his ear pressed near, not because he could hear the field's song in air, he could not, but because the act made his attention absolute. Again, he murmured to himself, fingers adjusting. The pulse shifted too smooth. He roughened it with a whisper of grain, too chaotic. He tamed it with a feedback trace. He smiled despite himself. There you are. Talon leaned close. You bent it, he said softly. Not forced, bent. Ryan sat back, exhaled. Convincing to mid-grade scanners. To high-grade, it'll fool them for a while. How long, Mael asked. Long enough, Ryan said. He didn't add, if we move fast, if we survive the first mistake, if luck pretends to love us. Ara stepped in, the light reflected in her eyes as she looked at the decoy. You give us a chance, that is all any battle needs. Ryan closed the shell with a soft click. In the box, the replica relic glowed like a small star learning to breathe. They chose the market at the blooming quarter. From above, the quarter was a spiral of terraces curving around a tall spire draped in bioluminescent vines. Thousands of thin bells hung from the vine fronds. Every breeze set them chiming, not with sound but scent. Bursts of cold mint when shade moved, warm cinnamon when a door opened. The crowd moved through perfumes like a tide. This place is dense, Ryan said, standing in the shadow of a carved arch. His stealth suit blurred his outline and softened his heat signature, but he kept the hood down. He wanted to be seen, not too much, just enough. Dense is cover, Mael's voice answered in his ear, controlled and flat. We have Overwatch at 12 points, drones in the upper lattice, Queen in reserve. Ryan touched the pouch at his belt. The decoy hummed faintly against his hip. Ara's voice came next, low and clear. You will let yourself be glimpsed, slow, obvious enough for watchers, not obvious enough for fools. Part of me prefers fighting fools, Ryan said, stepping out from the arch. He moved with a thief's casual ease, hands low, shoulders loose. He let city lenses see him. Let vendors' mirrors catch his face. Let one guard glance his way and blink twice. Every small signal went up like smoke to the watchers who mattered. He walked past stalls woven from living wood, past a table of knives that sang when you touched them, past a child with a crown of river glass who stared at him with solemn joy. He winked, and the child giggled, and for a heartbeat the world was just a market under perpetual violet light. 2 at your 7, Mael whispered, walking wrong. Ryan glanced, not with his eyes, not fully. A reflection in a copper pot gave him enough, tall, thin men in skin suits the color of stone. Their elbows bent too far, heads turned in quick insect-like ticks. Vorax agents didn't wear uniforms in a city like this, but the body gives things away. Copy, Ryan said. He let them follow. He let them see the pouch when his cloak shifted. He bought a folded bread from a vendor and bit it with exaggerated relish. He acted alive. At the spiral's next turn, the 2 became 4. They fanned out with unhurried patience. Mael's voice, we shadow, do not break. If you bleed, we come. No bleeding today, Ryan said, and hoped he wasn't lying. He reached a stone stairway and slowed, as if taking in a carved frieze. The frieze showed a river that curled into stars. As the first pair drew close, Ryan stepped forward, feigning surprise. He bumped the nearer agent with a shoulder. The man's skin felt too cool through cloth. Watch it, Ryan said loudly in the local trade tongue, then lowered his voice to a whisper only the agent could hear. If you're going to tail me, at least try for subtle. The agent's mouth tightened. His pupils were a little too big. His breath didn't fog in the cooler air. Ryan smiled and kept walking. The stair opened into a narrow lane webbed with awnings. Light filtered through in stripes. Ryan slipped under a sagging canopy of flexible glass and palmed the latch on its support. Behind him, feet approached, 2 regular, no stumble, no hesitation. He yanked the latch. The canopy fell like a curtain. The first agent hit the glass, stumbled. Ryan spun, drove an elbow into the second man's throat. The agent reeled. Ryan's knee snapped up hard. The crowd scattered with a hiss of perfumed bells. Contact, Mael said, calm becoming sharp. The second agent drew a thin blade that bent and hummed. Ryan caught his wrist and twisted. The blade kissed the stone and sliced a groove like it was soft soap. The first agent recovered faster than a human would. He slashed. Ryan ducked, felt wind move over his scalp. He drove the man back into a pillar and took his head hard against carved stone. The decoy at Ryan's hip seemed to thrum faster. They smell it, Ryan thought. They're singing to us. He didn't like the thought. He shoved the first man down. The second swung for Ryan's ribs. Metal kissed his suit and skittered, just enough protection to keep meat from opening. Ryan trapped the blade between forearm and bicep and hammered the agent's nose with the heel of his free hand. Bone gave. Black blood sprayed. The blade fell. Ryan kicked it into the drain. 4 more incoming, Mael snapped. Withdraw, South Passage. Ryan sprinted. He darted through a curtain of chains that smelled like cold rain and burst into a wider court. A shallow pool lay in the center. Thin arcs of water rose and froze in air like glass, then bent slowly into new shapes. Children laughed and tried to catch the slow water with flat hands. The laughter cut off when the Vorax entered the court. "Eight now, too many." "Queen is inbound," Mael said. "Hold 30 seconds." "I'll try to live that long," Ryan muttered. He backed toward the pool. The Vorax advanced in a wide arc, blades not yet raised. Their leader, if that was the right word, wore a collar that bent the light around his throat like heat over rock. His face was pale as chalk, eyes too dark. "Human," the leader said, voice amplified without visible tech. "You carry what is ours." "Don't we all," Ryan said. "Regrets, debts, bad knees." The Vorax didn't smile. He raised an open hand. "Give me the fragment and I will make your death swift." "I'm touched," Ryan said. "You learned mercy." "Efficiency," the Vorax corrected. They stepped closer, every move in clean synchrony. Not soldiers who trained together, parts of a machine. 20 seconds, Mael said. The lead Vorax's gaze flicked to the pouch at Ryan's belt. The collar at his throat pulsed. Ryan noticed the children clustered near the slow water, wide-eyed and small. He took a step sideways, spreading himself between them and the Vorax without thinking. The lead Vorax saw the motion and tilted his head. "You protect breeds not your own. Why?" "Because they're kids," Ryan said flatly. The Vorax's mouth thinned. "That is not an answer that fits," he lifted his hand. The air changed. It felt like pressure in Ryan's teeth, like a barometric drop before a storm. The scent bells behind him went dumb. The slow water in the pool stuttered, lost its grace, fell all at once and splashed the court. The rings of Ryan's fake relic surged and steadied, surged again. His suit's HUD flickered and died. "Mael," he said into nothing. "Aura." No answer, the pulse had crushed comms. The Vorax leader's collar brightened. He withdrew something from within his cloak and let it hang in his palm. Ryan's stomach turned to ice. It was a fragment, not a copy, not a toy. Smaller than the one Ryan had tried to steal, shaped like a curved scale. It glowed with the same not-quite colors, but deeper, like a note held in a strong voice. The pattern from Ryan's pouch responded. He felt it, a pressure under skin. Two notes trying to become a chord. The children behind Ryan whimpered. He spoke without looking back. "Go home now." Small feet ran. A stall door slammed. The court emptied to corners and shadows. The Vorax leader let the fragment rest on his pale palm. "We have learned patience where your kind learned improvisation. We have one piece. We will find the next. And the last," he looked up, black eyes pinning Ryan. "The last is already exposed." Ryan forced a grin he did not feel. "You mean the one here, not so exposed with a queen on top of it?" "No," the Vorax said simply. "The human fragment." Ryan's mouth went dry. "There's no human fragment, that's rumor." "Everything about your kind is rumor until it is ruin," the Vorax said. He closed his hand over the fragment. The pulse in the air deepened. The decoy at Ryan's hip answered like a broken echo. "We listen to what your governments do not say. We read what your pilots do not report. We are standing on the spiral that ends in your red world." "What red world?" Ryan asked, and his voice came out too fast. The Vorax studied his face. Satisfied, he said, "Caldera." Ryan's thoughts seized. He saw a sky the color of rust. He saw a boy with oil on his hands learning to fix a generator that coughed smoke. He saw a woman with a cracked laugh and a miner's shoulders pressing a travel chit into his palm. Get out. Go find better. He'd left because leaving was living. He told himself that for years. "How do you know that name?" he said, but it wasn't a question. The Vorax lifted his chin toward the sky. The pulse in the air grew teeth. "Because we are there now." Something howled above the city, a long, low wail that cut through stone and bone. Not a siren, not a wind. The sound of a sky torn by ships. The pulse released its hold on comms for a shattered heartbeat. Ryan's earpiece crackled. He heard Mael's voice through static. "Ryan, fall back. Queen on north." Then cut again. The Vorax took a measured step forward. His agents moved with him, blades rising in one smooth motion. "Give me the fragment," he said, soft as a knife, "and I will let your queen die quickly. Refuse, and I will take my time with your world." Ryan heard himself say, "You won't touch Caldera." It sounded like someone else, someone who still lived there in the red dust and hadn't learned to leave. The Vorax smiled for the first time. It was very small. "You overestimate your distance," he said. He turned his palm, and the fragment in his hand sang. The pulse hit Ryan like cold thunder. His fake relic answered with a flare, the pattern he had bent straining to match the real song. The pouch seared his hip. The world swam. A shadow fell across the court. Ryan lifted his eyes through the ringing in his skull and saw Aura descend in a spill of blue light and silver armor, her staff unfolding in her hands like a flower with edges. "Stand away from my city," Aura said, voice clear, amplified by nothing and everything. Guards ghosted the terraces behind her, weapons raised, faces calm. For a breath, the court held three stillnesses, human and queen and enemy in a triangle no one wanted to break first. Then the Vorax leader looked up through the lattice to the violet sky, and his eyes went distant as if reading a message only he could see. He spoke without looking at them. "Executor Fleet reports excavation begun," he said. "Human colony designation Caldera, outer mantle weak, defensive array obsolete, local resistance," he considered a word. Spirited, irrelevant. Ryan's mouth tasted like metal. Aura's fingers tightened on her staff. What did he say? Ryan couldn't answer. The Vorax looked down again, pleased. "By your dawn, human, the third fragment will be ours." He lifted the hand that held the real fragment. The pulse rose into a scream. The market bells burst without sound. The slow water froze into a brittle sculpture and shattered into powder. The rings beneath the city, the great dormant engine, answered with a tremor Ryan felt in his bones. And the fake at Ryan's belt, the thing he had tuned to breathe and lie, glowed white-hot and began to melt. The court shook like a struck drum. Ryan stumbled back, clutching at his hip. The pouch glowed white, the fake relic inside screaming its death song. Heat seared through his stealth suit, burning flesh beneath. He tore it free and hurled it into the shallow pool. Water boiled, hissing steam into the violet air. The Vorax leader's fragment pulsed harder, answering like predator to prey. Aura planted her staff on the ground. Energy blossomed outward in a shield that bent the Vorax wave. The bells above stopped shattering. The crowd's screams dulled. The pulse dimmed barely. The Vorax leader lowered his pale hand. "A clever lie, human," he said. "But lies cannot hide the truth forever. We know your world. We know where to dig." "Not if I burn you first," Ryan snarled, even as his knees threatened to give. Aura's violet eyes flicked to him. He saw calculation there, but something else too, anger sharp as a blade, not just at the Vorax but at him. "You tampered with Talon's work," she said, her voice pitched low enough only he could hear. Ryan forced a pained grin. "Improved it." "Improved," she echoed, furious and fascinated at once. Before she could demand more, the Vorax agents advanced, blades humming like hornets. Aura lifted her staff and the court erupted into motion. The battle was chaos sculpted into music. Aura moved like lightning, her staff splitting into two curved blades that sang when they struck. She cut arcs of violet light, precise, fluid, deadly. Guards poured from the terraces, their energy bows raining fire that bent around civilians fleeing into alleyways. Ryan had no weapon but his fists and a shard of anger hotter than any blade. He ducked the first Vorax strike, drove his shoulder into the attacker's chest, and rolled with the momentum. His ribs screamed in protest, but the alien went down hard. Ryan grabbed the fallen blade. The weapon felt alive. Its edge hummed under his fingers, vibrating with restrained hunger. He swung. The Vorax's arm came off at the elbow, black blood spraying. Ryan gagged, swallowed, swung again. "Don't think, move." "Back," Aura shouted. Ryan turned and saw the Vorax leader lift his fragment high. The court trembled. The concentric rings far beneath the city stirred, faintly visible through cracks in the stone. A deep resonance echoed in Ryan's teeth, a sound like a planet groaning in its sleep. "They're trying to wake it," Aura cried. "The engine." Ryan didn't wait. He charged the leader. The Vorax met him calmly, one hand raised. The pulse slammed Ryan like a wall. His body skidded across stone, armor scraping sparks. His lungs seized. For a moment he thought his chest would collapse inward. Then Aura was there between him and the Vorax, her staff splitting the pulse. She shouted over the roar, "Ryan, get to the fragment." Ryan dragged himself upright, every joint screaming. The Vorax was distracted, wrestling Aura's shield with the fragment's energy. He left his flank open. Ryan sprinted. He launched himself at the pale alien, grabbed the wrist that held the fragment, and bit down a yell as the energy burned through his gloves. He twisted. The Vorax hissed and struck him across the jaw with inhuman strength. Stars burst behind Ryan's eyes. He clung harder. The fragment slipped. For one heartbeat, it hung between them, pulsing like a second sun. Aura's staff lashed out. The fragment flew across the court, bounced once, and landed near the melted ruins of the fake. Both relics pulsed in unison, real and ruined echo. The ground split. The sanctum beneath the palace woke. Ryan felt it before he saw it, a low vibration in the bones, a wrongness in the blood. The air shimmered. The court fractured, stone cracking like ice under too much weight. A beam of light shot upward from somewhere far below, spearing through the city's spire and into the sky. The court was at its heart. Aura's face went white. The engine stirs. The Vorax leader's smile was cold and perfect. And it hears our song. No, Aura lunged toward the fragment. But the alien was faster. He snatched it from the stones, raised it, and the beam of light bent toward him like a worshipper to its god. Ryan staggered up, blade still in hand. He wasn't thinking anymore. He wasn't weighing odds. He wasn't remembering his orders or debts. He just moved. He hurled himself at the Vorax leader, blade first. The weapon struck armor. Sparks flew. The alien reeled not from the wound. His body was tougher than steel, but from the audacity. Human, he hissed, always reaching where you cannot grasp. Ryan spat blood. Yeah, but sometimes we catch it anyway. He rammed the blade again, this time low, under the rib-like plates. It slid deep. Black blood gushed. The fragment clattered from the Vorax's hand, rolling across fractured stone. Aura seized it. She spun, staff striking the ground, and a shield of violet fire spread wide, cutting the Vorax agents off from their leader. The leader stumbled, fury twisting his pale face. This changes nothing. Caldera burns even now. Ryan froze. The name hit harder than the blow had. He saw the red dust, the iron sky, the people he had left behind. His world, his family. Aura's gaze snapped to him, reading the truth in his silence. Caldera. Ryan's throat closed. Yes, the Vorax leader said, savoring it. The human's home, we are already there. Aura's staff trembled. Ryan. He wanted to lie, wanted to say no, but the images swarmed too strong. He met her violet eyes. It's true. The Vorax leader laughed, blood bubbling at his lips. By dawn, your world will be ash. And then, with a final sneer, he bit down on something hidden in his jaw. His body convulsed and disintegrated into a cloud of black ash. The fragment in Aura's hands pulsed harder, as if answering a call. The beam from the sanctum widened, shaking the city to its roots. Ryan grabbed her wrist. Aura, if he's right, if they're on Caldera. She looked at him, the weight of two peoples in her eyes. Then we cannot fight here alone. The city shuddered again, louder this time. Distant screams rose from streets beyond. Ryan's heart hammered. What do we do? Aura stared into the searing beam that connected the palace to the sky. We stop the engine, she said, or the galaxy ends. The ground beneath them split wide. The court collapsed. Ryan and Aura fell into light. The fall should have killed them. Stone shattered around Ryan as he plunged through dust and light. His body pinwheeled, every muscle straining for purchase. Air tore past his ears. A scream tore itself from his throat, cut short when Aura's arm snatched his. They slammed together in midair. Aura's staff extended, glowing with violet fire. A burst of energy slowed their descent, turning deadly momentum into a bruising crash. They hit a sloped platform of liquid metal that flexed under their weight, sending ripples outward like water catching stones. Ryan rolled onto his back, gasping. The chamber stretched vast around them, the heart of Arids itself. Concentric rings of liquid metal spun faster now, humming with resonance that made his bones ache. At the center, a pedestal of light blazed brighter than a star, streams of energy lashing out into the rotating bands. The metamorph engine was waking. Aura rose to her knees, clutching the fragment to her chest. Her silver hair clung to her face, her violet eyes blazing. It responds to the fragment. The Vorax leader fed it his song. Now it stirs for more. Ryan forced himself up. His body screamed protest, but adrenaline smothered the pain. Then we shut it down. You speak as though it were a door we can close, Aura snapped. This is no machine, it is will-given structure. Ryan staggered closer to the glowing rings. The hum deepened the nearer he came, vibrating in his teeth, buzzing in his fingertips. His engineer's brain saw it not as will, but as a feedback loop, a runaway system screaming for balance. Everything breaks down the same, he said, voice low, steady. Machines, systems, even people, they all need a reset. Ara shook her head, her voice cutting. A reset could tear this city apart, or worse, wake it fully. Then we don't reset, Ryan said, eyes narrowing. We jam it, bend the song. Her gaze snapped to him, sharp as her staff. With what? Ryan patted his belt, searching for tools he didn't have. All that remained was a cracked pulse grenade, his wrist computer, and scraps of melted plating from the fake relic. He held them up. Ara's lips thinned, pathetic. Ryan grinned despite himself. Yeah, but sometimes pathetic enough. They climbed toward the pedestal. The spinning rings blurred into luminous arcs. Every step across the liquid metal surface shook Ryan's balance. The closer they got, the stronger the pressure became. It pressed against his lungs, his thoughts, the rhythm of his very heartbeat. This thing's trying to pull me apart, he gasped. Ara's voice carried a rare tremor. It listens, it tastes your pattern. At the pedestal's edge, the fragment in Ara's hand pulsed violently, eager like it wanted to leap free. Ara grimaced, gripping it tighter. It sings too loudly. It will wake the others. Ryan squinted at the pedestal. The depression in its center glowed faintly, the empty socket waiting for a complete fragment. Above, the rings screamed for harmony. He remembered Vash's words, the song completes. Maybe it doesn't need to be complete, Ryan murmured. Maybe it just needs noise. Ara stared at him. Noise. He tore open his wrist computer, fingers ripping wires free. The screen flickered. A pattern so messy it can't sing straight. We feed it chaos, it chokes. She blinked, alien elegance cracking for a heartbeat. That could work. Ryan shoved the broken guts of the fake relic into the computer's shell, jury-rigging wires, scraping connections. His hands shook, sweat dripping into his eyes. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, that he was patching human trash into technology older than civilization itself. Ara crouched beside him, her cool hands steadying his trembling ones. Careful, too much noise and it may lash out. Ryan swallowed hard. Story of my life. He jammed the device into the pedestal's socket. The world screamed. The rings stuttered, their smooth arcs breaking into jagged lurches. The hum warped, twisting out of tune. The beam of light that speared the sky wavered, flickering like a candle about to die. Ara's eyes widened. It resists. Good, Ryan growled, holding the sparking device down with his bare hand. Means it's working. Electric arcs lashed his arm. His skin blistered. His teeth clenched until his jaw ached. He forced the device deeper, making the chaos pour into the system. The rings juddered harder, slowing, grinding. Then silence. For one heartbeat, silence. Then the engine roared back to life, louder, hungrier. Ara pulled him away just as the device exploded, shards of melted alloy scattering like shrapnel. The pedestal surged with energy, casting the chamber in blinding light. Ryan coughed smoke. His arm was a mess of burns. Guess it didn't like my music. Ara clutched his shoulders, forcing his gaze to hers. Listen to me. This is bigger than my city, bigger than us. If the Voraks unite the fragments, they will wake the engine completely. And then, she glanced at the blazing rings, her voice hollow. Then no world survives. Ryan's chest heaved. Then we can't let them find the third. Ara froze. Ryan realized what he'd just said. The human fragment, he said, voice cracking. On Caldera. Ara's violet eyes locked on him. She whispered the word like it was foreign. Your world. Ryan's jaw clenched. Images of red dust and rust skis stormed through him. He saw his mother's cracked hands, his father's broken tools, the miners who had raised him in grit and silence. People who had no idea they sat on a piece of power that could burn galaxies. The Voraks had said excavation had begun. By dawn, your world will be ash. Ryan's fists tightened until his knuckles bled. We can't stay here. Ara stood, her silhouette sharp against the raging pedestal. Then we go to your caldera. Before Ryan could answer, the ground shuddered violently. One of the massive rings cracked, spraying molten light into the chamber. The engine howled like a wounded beast. Ara's eyes widened. It breaks. The chamber began collapsing around them. They sprinted toward a narrow service shaft that wound upward through the ruins. Behind them, the pedestal spat arcs of white fire, tearing chunks from the chamber walls. Ryan staggered, half blinded by smoke and pain. Aura pulled him up by the arm, her cool strength steady. "Keep moving," she commanded. He coughed blood. "I'm trying." They burst from the shaft into a maintenance hall high in the palace. Guards rushed past, shouting warnings. Alarm bells tolled, mixing with the sound of the city cracking under its own weight. Aura grabbed Ryan's chin, forcing his eyes to hers. "If we leave now, we can reach orbit. We take the fragment with us. We go to Caldera." Ryan blinked through the smoke. "And if we do?" Aura's voice hardened. "Then the Vorax dig while we watch our galaxy die." Ryan stared at her, his burns screaming, his ribs cracked, his world suddenly teetering between survival and oblivion. And despite everything, the pain, the fear, the chaos, he laughed, low, bitter. "Looks like I'm going home." Aura's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then let us pray your home still stands when we arrive." A thunderous crash shook the palace, and the corridor split open, showing a glimpse of the twin stars above. Ryan looked into the light, his heart pounding. Caldera, his world, the third fragment. And the Vorax were already there. The transport shuddered as it pierced the upper atmosphere of Caldera. Ryan gripped the armrests until his knuckles turned white. Through the viewport stretched a familiar horizon, the red dust plains, the cracked mesas, the jagged scars of old mining pits. Rust skis swirled with storm clouds that never quite broke into rain. Home. He hadn't seen it in years, not since he'd left with little more than a travel chit and a stubborn will to survive somewhere else. He told himself he'd never come back. Now he had, dragging war behind him. Aura stood at the cockpit center, tall and unshaken, her violet eyes scanning the surface. The fragment pulsed faintly at her hip, contained within a sealed box of bioluminescent alloy. Even muted, its presence made the ship's systems hum in strange, syncopated rhythms. "Your world," she said, "it bleeds iron into the sky." Ryan forced a crooked grin. "Yeah, we call that charm." She glanced at him, her gaze softer than her words. "You left it." "I had to," Ryan muttered. "No future in the mines, just work till your lungs turn to ash. I figured maybe I could find more." "And did you?" Ryan looked out at the red dust. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, scarred, burned, older than he felt inside. "Not sure anymore." Before Aura could reply, alarms chirped. Mael's voice crackled from the rear. "Vorax vessels in orbit, small craft patrol size, they landed ahead of us." Aura's lips pressed thin. "They dig already." Ryan's stomach sank. Then we're late. They descended toward the settlement at Ash Hollow. Ryan recognized the cluster of low prefab buildings, the old mining rigs rusting like corpses in the distance. He remembered running barefoot through those streets, chasing laughter and dust storms. Now smoke curled into the sky. The Vorax were here. Aura touched his shoulder. "You know these people. If we are to find the fragment before the Imperium, we need them." Ryan hesitated. The last time his neighbors saw him, he was leaving, swearing he wouldn't end up like them. And now he'd return, dragging aliens and death behind him. But there was no time for shame. He nodded. "Then let's move." Ash Hollow was chaos. The Vorax had landed 3 dropships on the outskirts. Their pale soldiers marched in lines, corralling miners into the square. Black banners of the Imperium fluttered in the red wind. A massive drilling rig, alien and angular, already bored into the ground near the old shafts. Ryan's chest clenched. They were digging exactly where he used to play as a boy. He and Aura slipped through alleys, cloaked in shadow. Mael and 2 guards followed, their weapons humming. In the square, Ryan spotted her, his mother. Older, shoulders bent, but still unbroken. She stood at the front of a group of miners, facing down a Vorax officer nearly a head taller. Her cracked hands held a rusted pickaxe like a weapon. Ryan's throat closed. Aura caught his arm as he lurched forward. "Wait, too many." Ryan's voice cracked. "That's my mother." Aura's eyes narrowed, weighing options with frightening speed. "Then we strike smart, noise for cover, cut them out before the Vorax can answer." Ryan swallowed hard. "Fine, but she doesn't get touched." Aura's lips curved faintly. Human fire, I see it now. The plan lasted seconds before shattering into chaos. Aura's staff flared, sending a wave of violet energy that knocked half the Vorax back. Mael's guards opened fire, their beams slicing through ranks. Ryan leapt into the square, grabbed the nearest Vorax by the neck and slammed him into the dirt. "Ryan," his mother gasped. Her voice cracked like old stone. "No time, Ma," Ryan grunted, wrenching a weapon from the fallen alien's hands. "Stay low." The square erupted. Miners scattered as Vorax soldiers regrouped. The officer roared, his voice amplified, and pointed at Ryan. "Human." Ryan raised the stolen weapon. "Yeah, that's me." He pulled the trigger. The blast tore through the officer's chest. Black blood sprayed the dust. The square went still for one heartbeat, then all hell broke loose. The battle surged through Ash Hollow's streets. Ryan fought like a man possessed, every strike fueled by years of leaving and returning to this moment. Aura was a storm beside him, her staff crackling as it split soldier after soldier. Mael's orders cut sharp through the comms, her guards weaving discipline into the chaos. But for every Vorax that fell, two more pressed in. The drill roared louder, boring deep. Ryan's mother appeared at his side, swinging her pickaxe with surprising strength. "Still leaving chores to me, boy." Even in battle, Ryan barked a laugh. "Guess I take after you." They fought back to back, human grit against alien precision. But then the ground shuddered. The drill broke through into something vast. A plume of red dust shot skyward. The Vorax cheered in their insect-like voices. From the hole a glow rose, faint at first, then blinding. Aura's face went pale. The fragment, they've found it. Ryan froze. Deep in the shaft he saw it, a shard of impossible color pulsing like a heart. The third piece of the metamorph engine, his world's hidden secret. The Vorax officer's dying words echoed in his skull. "By dawn, your world will be ash." Aura grabbed his arm. "If they take it, the engine wakes, the galaxy burns." Ryan looked down at the glowing shard, at the soldiers surging to claim it, at his people screaming as the ground cracked under their feet. His voice was steady, even as fear clawed his insides. "Then we take it first." He leapt toward the shaft. The Vorax surged to block him. Ryan slammed through them, weapon blazing, blood hot in his throat. Aura vaulted beside him, her staff cleaving arcs of violet fire. They reached the edge. The glow below was stronger now, filling the shaft with alien radiance. Ryan looked at Aura. She met his gaze, fierce and unflinching. "Together," she said. "Together," he echoed. And they jumped into the heart of Caldera, where the fragment waited. The shaft swallowed them whole. Ryan fell through red dust and light, his body twisting in freefall. Beside him, Aura spun gracefully, her staff flaring with bursts of violet energy that slowed their descent in jerks and jolts. The shaft was enormous, wider than any mining tunnel Ryan remembered, its walls carved not just by drills, but by something older, something that had been waiting. At the bottom, the glow pulsed like a heartbeat, the fragment. Ryan hit hard, rolling through loose gravel and metal shards. Pain shot through his ribs, but he forced himself up, lungs burning. Aura landed beside him, balanced and fierce, silver hair glowing in the alien light. The fragment floated half-buried in the earth. It was larger than the others, jagged like broken glass, colors shifting faster than the eye could follow. Its song filled the shaft, vibrations deep and primal, resonating in marrow and memory. Aura's face went pale. "It already sings to the others, the engine will answer." Above, Vorax soldiers slid down ropes, their blades gleaming. Black banners unfurled in the dust like shadows with teeth. Ryan's jaw clenched. "Then we stop them here." The shaft became a battlefield. Aura's staff blazed arcs of fire, slicing through soldiers. Mael and her guards poured beams of energy from above, covering the miners who had rallied with tools turned to weapons. Ryan grabbed a broken mining pick, swinging it like he'd done as a boy, except this time every strike was for survival. The Vorax fought in eerie silence, their bodies moving like one machine. They pressed toward the fragment, ignoring the blood, ignoring the fire. Ryan's mother's voice echoed faintly from above. "Hold them back, hold." But the Vorax were endless. Ryan ducked a blade, drove the pickaxe into a soldier's chest, yanked it free, and turned to Aura. "We can't just hold them, we need to end this." Aura's violet eyes blazed. "Then we use the fragment." Ryan froze. Use it, you just said. She cut him off. If it hears only their song, the galaxy dies, but if we make it hear ours, she held out her hand, trembling but steady. Then maybe it remembers what it was meant to be. Ryan stared at her, at the shard poolsing brighter, calling to the Vorax, at the soldiers pressing closer, at his world on the brink of becoming ash. He grabbed her hand, then let's sing. Together they moved to the fragment. The closer they came, the stronger the resonance became. It shook Ryan's teeth, pounded his ribs, pulled at the rhythm of his very heartbeat. He felt like the shard was inside him, trying to tear its way out. Aura lifted her staff, energy flared, weaving with the fragment's light. She looked at Ryan, her voice soft but fierce. Humans are creatures of passion, impulse, intensity, give it that. Ryan clenched his fists. His mind raced with memories, his mother's cracked laugh, the red dust storms, the children playing in streets of iron, the miners who raised him with grit and silence. He thought of leaving, of running, of survival, of coming back. He shouted into the fragment, "This is my world, these are my people, you don't get to take them." The shard pulsed, its rhythm faltering. Aura's voice rose like music. "And this is my vow, no more weapons, no more ruin, you were made to heal." The fragment trembled. Its light flickered, stuttered like a song caught between two melodies. The Vorax leader's voice cut through the shaft. Ryan looked up and froze. A new figure descended, taller, broader, encased in dark armor that absorbed all light. His eyes were voids. An executor. The Vorax commander landed with the grace of inevitability. His voice boomed like stone grinding. "Fools, you cannot stop resonance, you cannot change the song." He lifted his hand. In it gleamed the fragment from Erid's, the second piece. The shard in the earth answered instantly, its pulse accelerating, harmonizing. Aura gasped, "He means to complete it here." Ryan's body moved before his mind caught up. He sprinted toward the executor, pickaxe raised. The alien swung, faster than he had any right to be. Ryan barely ducked, the blade singing past his head. Sparks lit the shaft. The two collided in brutal rhythm. Ryan striking, blocking, bleeding, refusing to fall. Aura fought beside him, her staff clashing against the executor's armor with flares of violet fire. But the alien was too strong. His fragment blazed. The shard in the ground blazed back. The engine was waking. Ryan stumbled, vision swimming. The executor loomed over him, blade raised. "Human," he said coldly, "you are noise, and noise must be silenced." Ryan spat blood. "Funny thing about noise," he gripped the pick tighter. "Sometimes it drowns out the song." He lunged not at the executor, but at the fragment in his hand. The pick struck true, shattering the containment shell. Energy flared wild, uncontrolled. The executor roared as the fragment burned him, ripping through his armor. Aura seized the opening. She drove her staff straight through his chest. The executor convulsed, light bursting from the cracks in his armor. Then he fell, collapsing into the dust, lifeless. The fragment tumbled free. For one breathless moment, both shards, Aridesian and Calderon, lay poolsing in the dust, singing to each other. Ryan's instinct screamed at him to run, but Aura's hand gripped his. "This is our chance," she whispered. "We can bend the song." Ryan met her gaze. He thought of his people, his world, the galaxy trembling on the edge of ruin. He nodded. Together they touched the shards. The world vanished. Ryan stood in a place of light and echo, a vast expanse of shifting colors. Aura was beside him, her hair flowing like silver fire. Around them the shards pulsed, threads of energy weaving between them like veins. A voice filled the expanse, not words but a presence, old, vast, waiting. Aura whispered, awed, "The engine's memory." Ryan stepped forward. "Then listen to me. You were made to heal, not to kill, not to burn, to protect." He poured himself into the words, every memory, every scar, every moment of human stubbornness. He thought of Caldera's dust, of miners refusing to break, of humans finding ways to live in places no one else could. Aura added her own voice, sharp and clear. "Life is not order, it is not silence. It is resonance, different notes, clashing, bending, but together making harmony." The light trembled. The shards pulsed faster, then slower, like a great heart listening. The Vorax song faltered. Ryan reached out, placed his burned hand on the shard. His voice cracked, raw. We are noise, and we are beautiful. Don't silence us. Sing with us. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the fragments pulsed together, not in the Vorax's command, but in Ryan and Ara's. The melody bent, reshaped. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't clean, it was alive. The shards dimmed, their light folding inward, sealing. The resonance faded. The engine went still. Ryan gasped, falling to his knees in the shaft. The shards lay quiet, inert, their light gone. The Vorax soldiers froze, their movements broken without command. Miners surged, driving them back with cheers and tools raised like weapons. Ara stood tall, her staff dim but unbroken. She looked down at Ryan, her violet eyes wide with something he hadn't seen before, wonder. "You did it," she whispered. Ryan shook his head, breathless. "We did it." The shaft echoed with the sound of retreating Vorax, their banners collapsing in the dust. The battle was won. For now. Later, under the red sky, Ryan stood at the edge of Ash Hollow. His mother approached, her face lined, her eyes fierce. She put a hand on his shoulder. "You came back," she said simply. Ryan swallowed hard. "Should have never left." She shook her head. "No, you left so you could return when we needed you." Her gaze shifted to Ara, who stood watching the horizon, regal even in exhaustion. "And you didn't come back alone." Ryan followed her gaze. Ara turned, her eyes meeting his. For the first time, her lips curved into something almost human, a smile. "Your people are remarkable," she said. "Fragile, stubborn, reckless, but remarkable." Ryan smirked, though his throat tightened. "Guess we're full of surprises." She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Resonance of spirits, we call it. Two notes that clash, yet make something new." Ryan's chest ached. He reached for her hand. "Then let's make it loud." The Vorax were not destroyed. The fragments were not gone. The engine still slumbered beneath Arids, waiting. But for the first time, humanity and Aridesians stood together. And Ryan Blake, a thief, a deserter, an expendable pawn, had become something more. A voice, a bridge. A noise the galaxy could no longer ignore.